Very good morning to you. And welcome back to West Ham Unofficial. It's Monday morning. Happy Monday, first of all. I don't know where to start, really. I haven't done one of these shows for a while, and I think it's probably a perfect opportunity to bring it back with the fan base in a little bit of meltdown overnight after watching, if we're going to be straight and honest about it, a really, really pathetic display at the London Stadium yesterday afternoon. I I stood back on about the hour mark, standing up in the stadium. I stood back and went, just what are we doing wrong here? Because I thought about it, and I thought about it on the way home on the train, and I've come to do this now, and I've come to the conclusion that I would have picked pretty much the same starting lineup as David Moyes today. Yes, there's fundamental changes that we'd all make to the way David Moyes is playing football, but since the international break, things have just gone on a rapid decline. Where before, I mean, was it in at the end of August, we were relatively happy. I know we'd only played 3 games at that stage, but I mean, Brighton away was fantastic. Moyes seemed like he'd united the fan base again. We were playing a brand of football that was working, and that stopped because the brand of football we're playing currently isn't working. I stood outside the Amex very, very early on in the season, and I said Moyes is playing a risky game, and if it works, I'm all for it. If it doesn't work, and these were my words, if it doesn't work, then there will be issues, and these issues are now facing us where we've got a fan base, and the Twitter fan base is very reactionary, but there's been lots of calls overnight for him to go. There's been a lot of frustrated people that have had these frustrations and anger bottled up, waiting for us to go on this sort of mini run of defeats and then let it all out. And look, you can't blame them, can you? I'm no, I'm neither Moyes in or Moyes out at this stage. Listen, I think it's stupid to say. I think it's stupid to call for Moyes to be sacked. Not because I think the opinion's stupid, because it's simply not going to happen, is it? If we're being realistic about it, the board are not going to sack David Moyes at this current moment in time. It's just not going to happen. I would be astounded if I wake up tomorrow morning, or if I get home from school later on and I look at my phone and we sack David Moyes. It's just not going to happen, is it? So Moyes is here, and he's only contracted down to West Ham until the end of the season, and I don't think he'll be here next season. I think he'll probably run that contract down, and hopefully we can pick up a bit of form. And come the end of the season, I think it could be time to say goodbye. And the question many people have posed and asked is, yes, we couldn't sack him after winning our first trophy in God knows how long. But we all deep down know that Moyes has taken us as far as he can, as he can. That's obvious. Is there going to be a resurgence? I really do hope there is, but realistically, if we're all talking straight, we all know deep down, deep within us, that Moyes has taken West Ham United as far as he can. And yes, he's bought himself time by winning the trophy and with the start of the season that was excellent. Because having talked about the manager being sacked just isn't relevant at this current moment in time. The one thing that I'm worried about is Moyes finding his best team and finding a bit of balance in this side, because ever since the international break, there's been a little bit of indifference. There's been a little bit of unbalance in that side where we've had to swatch. We've had to enforce changes. I mean, Emerson had to drop out today, so Creswell yesterday. Sorry, so Emerson had to drop out. Creswell had to come in, and Creswell's not good enough. It's not his fault, but he's just not. He hasn't got the pace ability, or just going him to start at left back in the Premier League anymore. That's the harsh reality of it. Nothing to do with him. Great servant to the football club, but he's not good enough. That's the bottom line. And of course, Emerson will come back in on Wednesday, I'd like to think, against Arsenal. But again, in our next Premier League game, I think the ban goes in for Paqueta and Alvarez, who both yesterday, bearing in mind, I didn't think had great games, but they're still two key players. So they're missing for the Brentford away game. which is going to take out two huge cogs in this system. And I think Moyes is just struggling to find that fluidity that he had in the early stages of this season. In the midfield, James Ward-Prowse has drastically declined since he's played a more deeper role. He was excellent playing a little bit more advanced, but he's obviously been told by David Moyes just to hang back a bit and to play in a more deeper role, and that's been detrimental to his performances, because I mean, he was a passenger yesterday, and he has been for the last couple of weeks in games, which is a shame, because he started life in East London off superbly, and he's just gone downhill slightly. That's one observation I've made. The midfield is it's the key pivotal part of any team, and when the midfield isn't functioning, then the whole team tends to not function, and that's, I think, what we've seen over the last week, with three devastating losses, three really, really poor performances to go alongside them as well. And I think it's because the midfield, it's looked disjointed. Souček's been in, then he's been out, and he came back in towards the back end of yesterday's game, but I just feel Moyes is a little bit bemused himself currently about where his midfield players should be playing to get the best out of them. Alvarez obviously is the sitter, and in a lot of occasions yesterday he was the third centre half. He's practically holding a Gerd and Zuma's hand at the back, which I've got no issue with. I didn't think he was great yesterday, Alvarez, but I've got no issue with that role he plays, because usually he plays that role very well. And Souček's been playing a little bit more advanced. He was scoring goals, but that's dried up. Obviously, you can't expect him to score a goal in every single game. But his performance is obviously warranted in David Moyes' eyes for him to drop down to the bench for yesterday's game. Mohamed Kudus came in, and I think Moyes is getting the positioning of Kudus and Paqueta wrong. Kudus wants to play in the middle. I get that. But Paqueta has proved himself in the middle, and he's lost that on the left-hand side. Kudus has had a couple of little 20-minute bursts out on the left-hand side where he's looked dangerous. And yes, there's that element of predictability in his game where we know what he's going to do when he, runs. But he's got that pace that perhaps Jared Bowen hasn't got, or Ben Rama as the other alternative for the wing, because Paqueta's wasted out on that left-hand side. And I thought he was really, really poor yesterday. And you could see the frustration because he kept diving and kept throwing his hands up in the air. He was really poor. I'm not denying that. But he needs to be playing in the middle, because I think Kudus can play out wide and is more suited to that role than Paqueta. Look, in an ideal world, both of them play in the middle because that's their position, but we can't do that. So I think I would switch them around. People have talked about Kudus to start up front. I don't see that. I mean, Paqueta went out front for the last, whatever it was, 20 minutes yesterday. When Antonio went off and Ben Rama switched out to the left, so Paqueta went into the middle. That was ineffective. Just every roll of the dice currently Moyes puts on the table just isn't working, and I don't think he could put a finger on it. And I think the fan base's anger over the last week, a lot of people have spent a hell of a lot of money over the last 8 days to watch West Ham. They've gone up to Villa away, many of them. Then they've flown and had 3 or 4 days in Greece and Olympiacos to see another loss, and then they've come back maybe on Saturday, and they've had an evening off, and they've come back and they've watched a really boring and dull game where there was no hope. And that's one of the first times this season where I thought this at many stages last season. We could be playing all day here and we'd never score, and that was my genuine thought when I walked out on the 88th minute. I thought we could still be playing at 6 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and we still wouldn't have scored a goal. That was my genuine feeling, that we could have been there for hours and hours and hours and not put one into the back of the net. It wasn't because we weren't taking our chances, it's because we weren't creating chances. That team is very disjointed. It's almost dysfunctional at the moment. People don't know their roles, and it's all come from an international break that has been plonked in the middle. And I'm not blaming the international break. They're there for a reason. They're there for every team. But it just seems like ever since that point, we've come back. We went into it with loads of confidence, a Kudus goal to get us a point against Newcastle, which I think we deserved. And then we've come back after it, and we just haven't got going. And this now sort of resulted in the fan base's anger spilling out at David Moyes, and there's been many calls for him to go overnight. And look, there was boos. I heard them as I was walking back to Stratford Station when the full-time whistle went yesterday at the London Stadium. There was boos. It was not a good afternoon because Everton weren't too much better than us, but they scored a goal. They were just a little bit more streetwise. Don't get me wrong, they did a job on us. They did a complete job on us. Credit to Everton. I think they turned up and they had a perfect Sean Dyche away performance. They sort of contained any pressure that we opposed on them, which was very minimal, I have to say. And they got a goal and they defended their lead with purpose, which we, couldn't do because we really didn't test Pickford a great deal, which was the frustrating thing about it. We're playing Everton at home. No disrespect to Everton, but they're just not a very good football team, are they? They've been really poor at the start of this season. Yeah, a couple of results have gone their way, but realistically, they've been down there for a while. For the last couple of seasons, they've scraped out of the relegation spaces on the last day. We were involved in their survival at Leicester away last year. If that would have gone differently and if Decore wouldn't have scored that goal at Goodison Park, they wouldn't even be in the league. So look, fair play to Everton. They completely did a job on us, and Moyes had no answer, as he didn't have an answer at Villa last weekend, and as he didn't have an answer away at Olympiacos when he got things wrong on Thursday. So yeah, I'm not a little bit concerned. I'm very concerned now going into a game against Arsenal in the Carabao Cup, where form goes out of the window. It's a derby. It's under the lights. It's at the London Stadium, where hopefully we can just find a bit of flair, play a lot better if we want to have any chance of going through, and just giving that team a little bit of confidence, because you could tell the heads were down. The confidence is on the floor, and because of the last 3 games, and not just the 3 defeats, it's the manner of the defeats that go alongside that, as I said earlier. And we need to see a response. And I was hoping to see it today. We didn't. And now we're going to have to wait and face a very good Arsenal team on Wednesday and hope for a response there. Then we go to Brentford away. Historically, we don't do well there without Paqueta and Emerson. I'm not being funny. This time next week, I could be saying we've lost another 2 games and we've lost 5 on the trot. And that's not that's not difficult to view and understand and sort of expect to happen, really, is it? Because the way we're playing, unless there's a shift and a drastic change over the next few days, then that will become reality. And I really hope I'm wrong, and I really hope David Moyes can turn it around, because otherwise board meetings will have to take place come November or December time. It's not going to happen yet. They aren't going to sack him if we lose 2 more games. That's just not going to happen. But if we continually don't have an answer, and if we continue to play like we did yesterday, then we're in for another long old season. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Drop a like on the video and subscribe to West Ham Unofficial if you're new. There's loads of reaction videos from yesterday's game on the channel, alongside by my match day vlog from the game as well. It was it was a really poor showing, a really poor afternoon from West Ham yesterday, and all we ask for now is a response and a better one on Wednesday. It's a difficult opponent to do it against, but we've got no choice. These players need to lift their heads and give the manager something to go on, because I did almost slightly feel a little bit sorry for Moyes today, because people have said, that's the same lineup I would have put out. But yeah, it's not the same tactics, is it? It's not the same players in the same positions. I'd have swapped Paqueta and Kudus around. I'd have played Ward-Prowse a little bit more progressively, and maybe pulled one of them back in midfield. That's what I would have done. I'd have made subtle changes today. Would it have made any difference? I don't know. But it is what it is. Frustrated and just deflated, I think, are the 2 words I'll end this video on. If you've enjoyed, as I said, drop a like, subscribe, become a channel member as well if you'd like, by clicking the join button. All the other content on the channel is there ready to view for you viewers as well. Come on, your irons, and we go again Wednesday. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.